After the fight between Walker and Lloyd in the bunkhouse, Yellowstone fans rightfully worried about Lloyd and wondered aloud, why are there women in the bunkhouse? It's a question that comes with some social consequences. On one hand, women and men should be treated equally, but does that extend to sharing living quarters and sometimes even beds with the boys? John Dutton came down hard with a decision this week that's frankly shocking.
No more girls in the bunkhouse.
Wait, what?
No more girls in the bunkhouse.
Wow. I didn't think they'd actually do it, but what about, oh boy, or maybe not. Hey, it's Billy Dukes, and right off the top, let me know. Do you agree with this new policy and what it means for the show moving forward? Comment below. If you lost count, 3 characters exited during episode 6, titled I Want to Be Him. I have reason to believe that at least one of them is coming back very soon, and I think you're gonna agree. Heck, let's just get right to it. Teeter has the brand, y'all. Let's go back to season 1, episode 4, The Long Black Train, when Rip pulled Fred off of Jimmy. Rip tells the other Wranglers at that time that Jimmy's Y brand means he's untouchable, and then he pulls Jimmy aside and says,
This is your family. We're your family.
That's the rule for any branded man, as long as he or she follows the rules, and Teeter has been nothing but loyal. Kicking her out would be a ranch crime, and this show just doesn't tolerate that. It's why we're in this mess to begin with. Alright, more on this in a moment, plus the immediate problem that Jamie's meeting with his real dad presents, and the one character who actually returned to the show after disappearing 2 seasons ago. A major loose end was closed with this scene.
Everybody wondered where you went.
Not a believer in goodbye. When it's time to leave, I go.
But that's not why we're here. Tap subscribe if you haven't already, and give a thumbs up if you're happy to learn some answers to some of this season's biggest questions. Maybe we'll even figure out what became of the kid with the lug nuts before too long. I think we're setting up for a wild 4-episode showdown that is going to be anything but the relative tranquility we've had since the opening sequence of episode 1 ended. This episode was a gut punch. What went down between Jamie and his real dad Garrett was shocking. And I'm going to give you 3 seconds now to hop out if you don't want this spoiler alert. And alright, Jamie confronted his dad, revealing that our buddy Higgins did name Garrett Randall as the man who hired him to kill the Dutton.
Did I try to kill them? So goddamn right I did.
Full disclosure, I was Team Garrett, even went as far as to say that we're guilty for assuming things about a convicted man who'd been rehabilitated. That was during a recent episode of the Dutton Rules podcast. I was totally wrong. And if you want to hear me grovel for forgiveness, you can find the links to the podcast in the description section. It's coming real soon. The scene ended with this. They were hugging, truly hugging. And I just can't. I mean, what is Jamie thinking? Can the dude please pick a team? Clearly this is about to be a big issue when Casey calls and says, hey bro, did you talk to that Higgins guy by chance? Oh, really? Interesting. Oh, what did he say? Oh boy. No one died after the attacks that ended Season 3, but I think that someone has to die before Season 4 wraps. In fact, I'd go as far as to predict it will end with some sort of scene where Jamie has to choose, and maybe that's going to be the cliffhanger as we approach Season 5. It's really hard to keep defending Jamie after this one. Surprisingly, that was it for those two during this episode because the action went back to the bunkhouse. Quick note on the music, though. The song used as Jimmy roamed about his new room on the 4-6's ranch is called West Texas in My Eye by the Panhandlers, another great choice by Taylor Sheridan and his team.
I ain't crying, that's West Texas in my eye.
Back to the bunkhouse where Lloyd finally has enough of Walker and his troubadour style. The guitar smash kicks off a fresh confrontation that really escalates when Lloyd pulls out his knife and, oh damn, Walker lives. But John decides 2 things need to happen. The first is no more women in the bunkhouse, including Teeter. For now. They're all fired. I do want to say that I kind of struggle with this rule because it seems backwards, but sometimes backwards is right. Thumbs up if you agree. It's an interesting conversation that I hope that we can continue to have respectfully. staff@tasteofcountry.com is my email address, or hit the comments section. That's where we can go with this. We went deep on this topic on the most recent Dutton Rules podcast. That's episode 4. The takeaway, though, is that Mia and Laramie just brought too much trouble to the ranch. The second decision that John makes is that Lloyd and Walker need to fight it out. And they do. They go at it for an hour, maybe 2 hours. Finally, John calls Lloyd the winner But wait,
I want you to make an example out of the last man standing. Yes, sir.
oh, here's how Rip handled that.
This is to protect you from yourself.
Y'all, Lloyd is supposed to be the best man for Rip's wedding. It's hard to understand this cowboy justice. But one person who absolutely got it was Carter, who watched and then said,
I know what I want to be when I grow up.
What's that, kid?
Him.
the bottom line here is the feud between Walker and Lloyd looks to be officially over. Lloyd even helps Walker to his feet at the end of the fight. The old man is on his last chance, but it seems like a lesson he's learned. Earlier, we learned that Beth and Rip are planning some sort of wedding, so maybe Lloyd will get the chance to stand next to him. A moment ago, I mentioned an old character returning, and I meant this woman. This is Avery, who debuted to end Season 1 and flat out disappeared halfway through Season 2. It kind of seemed like she and Jimmy were going to develop a relationship, but she just ran off. Casey finds her on the reservation after 18 horses were stolen from her family's property, and they catch up a little bit.
I'm gonna run my family home, and then I'll come back and we can get some descriptions or whatever paperwork you might have.
Here, I thought you were just a cowboy.
There's a theory as to why Avery really left, but first, Monica got real jealous after this interaction. And I suppose it didn't really help much that her son said she was hot too. That may not just be an aside, because if Avery is back, she's got to be back for a reason, right? There's literally nothing about why Avery, played by Tanaya Beatty, left the show. Looper did some research on the topic and found that she might have left to commit further to more family-friendly programming, like a Lewis and Clark miniseries that's been in development for 5 years at HBO. She was going to play Sacagawea. This is all rumor, but it's also all we got. The story of how 18 horses were stolen from her property went on to find Casey discovering that a dirt bike was involved. It's a lot of detail, and it feels like there's a little bit more to come here. By the way, Avery was more than just a wrangler. Rip actually hired her away from a strip club, and she was asked to do some undercover work on Dan Jenkins back in the day. Remember Dan Jenkins? She was a critical part of Season 2, much more than just a horse groomer, and she also held her own in the bunkhouse in a way that Teeter would be proud of. If Monica revealed her crazy, then Beth let her crazy get out and slapped it in the behind when she found Summer in her kitchen with no pants on. They had conversation.
Hope you didn't pay full price for that boob job.
Actually, God gave me these for free. Looks like he gave me yours too.
Apparently she smelled like pepper spray, so he offered her some new clothes. You know, that old trick. Expect Summer to stick around, even though it's not quite clear how yet. Taste of Country talked to actor Piper Perabo recently, who alluded to some form of negotiation that we've not yet seen. Most fascinating is what she had to say about how she got the part. Like her character, Piper is also a political activist. She was having dinner with Taylor Sheridan in real life, shortly after a protest she was involved in.
I had gotten arrested for civil disobedience in this protest, and he was really interested in that. And we started talking about it. He kind of wanted to know all the nuts and bolts and exactly how it works. And that's the kind of storyteller he is. You know, he gets interested in something and just keeps digging and digging and digging. And so about 6 months later, he called and said he'd written this part.
Okay, to recap, Laramie and Mia and maybe Teeter out. Avery and Summer are in. Beth and Monica, super jealous. Rip's gonna find a happy plot of land to marry Beth. Oh, and Jimmy's growing up before our eyes. In fact, I feel like when he returns to the Yellowstone ranch, he's just going to be Jim. Subscribe and thumbs up this video, and then let us know which character you need more of. I'm Billy Dukes for Taste of Country. Thanks for watching, y'all.